Over the past couple of months, there has been a very contentious situation happening in Birmingham in the UK. Muslim protesters demanding an LGBT curriculum be ended at various schools, and the protests are growing. Now, what's really strange is, for the longest time, we weren't seeing the woke progressives telling these religious conservatives to stop protesting against LGBT curriculums, which is weird, but this is intersectionality, so what can you expect? However, just about a week ago, Labour MP Jess Phillips, in angry confrontation with anti-LGBT education protesters outside Birmingham School, reported by The Independent. So this is a feminist now confronting these Muslim protesters and now being called an Islamophobe. And this is where we see the intersectional feminists make no sense. How can you can't simultaneously defend conservative religious folk and the LGBT community because they're going to clash. But there is an update. We have the story from The Guardian from just about 5 days ago. Police chief calls for the end of the Birmingham protests. So let's read into this before we get started. Check out timcast.com/donate if you'd like to support my work. There's a monthly donation option, cryptocurrency, physical address, but of course you can just share this video, like and comment, because engaging with the video in any way tells YouTube the video must be good, and they share it more. So let's see what happened with this feminist confronting the Muslim protesters, and then we'll see the later update about the police chief saying enough. They say, Labour MP Jess Phillips has been filmed having an angry confrontation with the leader of a protest against same-sex education at a Birmingham school. The Birmingham Yardley MP confronted Shakil Afsar, who is fronting the campaign against Anderton Park Primary's decision to teach pupils about LGBTQ relationships. In a heated row outside the school, which was filmed by BBC News, Ms. Phillips accused Mr. Afsar and other protesters of damaging the reputation of Birmingham's peaceful and loving Muslim community. Whoa, full stop, Jess Phillips, Islamophobe. How do you, a non-Muslim, think you have the right to tell Muslims what they are or are not allowed to believe? And I will say this with all sincerity, because I believe people have a right to practice their religion. And it is a complicated issue. I had a really interesting discussion with David Pakman. David Pakman said he doesn't believe religion should be protected. I believe it should, simply because we're at a point now where you can't strip the protections away from people. And maybe moving forward it shouldn't be, but I don't know. The issue is people have a right, in my view, to practice their religion. Now, protesting a school because they're teaching kids about certain things, I believe they have a right to that as well. It's called free speech. So now we see feminist Jess Phillips, and admittedly, I'm not big on UK politics, but I do know Jess Phillips is a feminist, and she's had a big, something with Sargon, and, I'm not going to get into that. But anyway, why is an intersectional feminist approaching Muslims and telling them she's hurting their reputation? Perhaps they want a reputation for opposing LGBTQ education. It's part of their religion. She said she would be asking for an exclusion zone to allow pupils to attend lessons without being disturbed by the protest taking place outside. Well, now she's against free speech, but we can kind of assume that she would be, right? The row is the latest in a long-running dispute between the school and parents over its policy on LGBTQ education. Asked why she had not supported the parents' protest, Ms. Phillips told Mr. Afsar, "I don't agree with the protests. I don't agree that you get to pick and choose which equality you can and can't have." Well, I will say this. At least respect to be given to Jess Phillips for actually standing up to the religious conservatives protesting against the curriculum. There is a good argument to be made that they are teaching children who are too young. They're teaching them about this stuff, and the kids are too young and shouldn't be going through this. Some of the kids are 4 years old, and probably doesn't make sense. I think I was 10 when we did, bio education for reproductive education. But at least, because before I was critical of them for not standing up to him. I'm not going to be critical for her standing up to him, but I will be critical of her in the sense that, look, intersectional feminism, you cannot have a principled position here. You either oppose the Islamic, faith and what they believe in, or you ignore them and let them protest against the LGBTQ community. Who do you choose? Intersectionality doesn't, you can't be principled and do both. You're conflicting with your views no matter what. Jess Phillips, who is presumably a white woman, telling a religious minority and brown people what they should or shouldn't be doing, sorry, that makes you the bigot, Jess Phillips. She says, "Our equality laws protect us all. I want to protect you. I want to protect the Muslim community. The worst thing about it is damaging the reputation of a peaceful and loving community that I have lived in my entire life. I am going to call for an exclusion area, etc., etc. Well, she's being called hardcore Islamophobic, right? Because for obvious reasons. But let's do this. Let's jump to the story, which is just from about 5 days ago. Chief Constable says lawful or unlawful protests have no place outside primary schools. Well, look, our cousins across the pond in the UK, you don't get free speech. I believe you should have free speech. I believe you should be allowed to protest here in the United States. You're absolutely allowed to. And this goes for every wingnut leftist, loony who goes around waving crazy signs that the end is near because of climate change. Whatever your cause is, you are allowed to do it. I once knew a guy who stopped shaving and then went around walking around the streets holding up a sign saying the end is nigh. I seriously, I have no idea why. Dude lost his mind. But hey, man, more power to you. Constitution protects you regardless of whether or not you're out of your gourd or you do know what you're talking about. I'm not accusing the left of everyone being crazy. I'm saying free speech protects the craziest of the crazies. UK doesn't have this. So yes, you'll get a police chief. See, this could never happen here. Well, I take that back. It's not like our Constitution is being protected very, very well. A police chief has said, yada, yada, yada. The Chief Constable of West Midlands Police, Dave Thompson, said a number of criminal offences had occurred outside Anderton Park Primary School in Birmingham since Sunday evening. The force received reports at 9:30 p.m. on Sunday of an assault and criminal damages on Dennis Road in Moseley, as well as reports of malicious communications received by the school last Thursday. Police were at the school on Monday after protesters claimed about 600 pupils were withdrawn from their lessons. It's only getting worse. Man, I'll tell you what. European elections are taking place. And a lot of people are scared that the right wing is going to win. Well, listen. Do you want to know why they're going to win? Do you want to know why they are winning? Do you want to know why they're winning in India and in Europe? The Brexit party is huge right now. It's because of stories like this. And so Jess Phillips is right in that regard. I believe they are giving the Muslim community a bad reputation, but I'm not surprised. They're religious conservatives. Okay? We went through this in the US when, it was the religious conservatives opposing LGBT rights. Even to an extent right now, if you're a trans activist, yes, it is not the liberals that are pushing back on you. Well, some of them are, but it's mostly conservatives. So if you want to talk about LGBT and who is going to be opposing them, it's going to be, if any group, it's going to be the Muslim community. And look, the Muslim community isn't alone. While they're the majority in the protests, there are some Christian, other Abrahamic conservatives who agree with them. In fact, there are people who comment on my videos and say, hey, I agree with them too. There are people who agree with them because they think kids shouldn't be taught this stuff this early on. The point is, when you have, liberal, progressive parents who are pro-LGBTQ, and they see a massive group of Muslims chanting shame, I kid you not, they were chanting shame at the school, not because of the curriculum. It escalated. They were chanting shame because the Muslim protesters were saying they thought it wasn't okay. The Muslim community doesn't appreciate the gay community. Like I said, it was wrong. They don't believe it exists. And we're chanting shame. I kid you not. So what do you think happens then when you have like moderate independent types and they hear this? They're going to be like, wow, we can't have that. We have to protect the LGBTQ community. Who talks about it? Well, you get labor politicians defending the Islamic protesters. And then eventually middle of the road people say, I'm going to vote for the right wing guy. And they do. Now I will add, because look, you don't got to like Jess Phillips. But at least she's trying to be consistent. And I can respect that. I can. You give credit to people when credit is due. I was very critical of the progressives for not coming out in the past and standing up to these Muslim protesters. And Jess Phillips is doing this now. And she said, I want to protect you. I want to protect all, etc. So bravo. Credit where it's due. Unfortunately, your ideology is in an untenable position. Okay? Because you've got to pick and choose now. And who are you going to oppress as a white, cisgendered woman, I believe? I don't know. But Miss Phillips, presumably a white woman, I think she is. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But the point is, she's not a Muslim. And she's telling what Muslims what they can or can't do. That sounds oppressive by your own metrics. You shouldn't be doing that. More importantly, you're a politician. You shouldn't be doing that based on your own ideology. Now, from a rational, normal human point of view, yes, absolutely. Chill these people out. Tell them, like, listen, But I will end with one final point. It's an interesting conundrum. I certainly believe in LGBT rights. I disagree with authoritarian application of social justice, but I believe social justice is important and a good thing. It's the authoritarian application that's a bad thing, and it's the restriction of people's rights and their speech. That's not social justice. That's repressive, regressive behavior. I don't know the solution to this one. If religious folk want to protest, I believe they have every right to do so. And the schools, they can keep doing what they want to do. But I believe if this were taking place in the US, the Muslim community should have the right to be out there every day protesting. End of story. Where do we go? I don't know. I don't know how we solve that problem, because I do believe in expanding civil rights. But who do you take the rights away from to expand the rights for others? Should we allow the police to say the protests should end? I disagree with that. But hey, it's the UK. They don't have free speech. So let me know what you think in the comments. Those watching on YouTube, what do you think about Jess Phillips? I don't know a lot about her. But I do have one more story coming up for you, and it's hilarious. It's absolutely hilarious. It exposes the fake news. So I will see you in a few minutes.